my notes on there.
Oh, man, now I don't have none.
Questions I was writing myself.
I'll do this that way. It won't take up space.
I would ask that we get a show because I can get it on the same screen.
Sure. Excellent. Okay. Yeah, well, yeah. Do I have it this one? Okay. All right, the February 2021 meeting will come to order. We have a quorum here. We'll start with the agenda. Is any changes to the agenda? Okay. Do we accept the agenda as noted?
Yeah, I motion to accept the agenda.
So, second. Matt.
Who's second? I am. Oh.
Hey, so, all those in favor say aye and raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay, good. So we will proceed with the agenda as set. Request from Bonnie is that we raise our hands because with our masks you can't hear. Excellent. Well, we're gonna, do you mind if I wait till Jamie gets here to introduce our new member so that she can hear it as well? Is that okay? Would that be okay if we waited till Jamie got here? Okay, great.
How you feeling?
Minutes. Any feedback on the minutes? Any feedback?
Move the minutes be approved as written.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay. All right, then we will get started with our first new business. Turn it over to
Good evening. I'm Marion Ray, one of the zoning planners. I am here to present, hopefully. Hang on, one side, there we are. Here we go. Preliminary plat for Lauren Pines, Phase 3. Tax map ID 28300000008. Property owner is Bethel Holdings and the applicant is JMG and Associates. The property is currently zoned RUD and it is the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan. This land area is 88.26 acres. They're proposing 50 single-family residential lots, each at least 1 acre in size, with overall width of 100 feet. So the density is 0.56 units per acre, and then we also have 28.34 acres of common open space. There are 4 new public streets and a temporary cul-de-sac on Autumn Cherry, which will allow for possible future development and interconnectivity extending from the current development. So this is the preliminary plat. And then the close-up, this is the entire neighborhood with the Phase 1 and Phase 2, and then Phase 3. Do we have any questions for staff?
I
Yes,
do.
sir.
And this is just curiosity. Look at the traffic, the TIA,
Yes, sir.
page 10, packet page 10. I'm just curious, the level of service at 161 in Lauren Pines is D in the evening, now existing. And then at the bottom, when the thing is built out, it becomes a C.
Correct.
How'd that happen?
It was 50 additional lots.
Well, that's what, but it went down, did it, from C to D?
Yep.
Am I not right?
I don't see a D.
I see,
Huh?
It
I
went
see
from
it
B to
showing as a
C.
level of service B.
Built,
No,
level of service billed in 2023 is, for 161 and Lawrence Pines Drive, is C in the evening.
Yeah, in the PM.
Right now, it's a D. Am I reading that right?
That's what I see, but
How can that be?
I'm not a traffic engineer, unfortunately.
Oh, up there. Yeah, I see.
I don't have that memo in front of me, but that's what was in the report. So
I can't understand you.
I don't have the memo in front of me, but that was what was in the report. If that's what the memo says.
Okay,
I'm sorry, what was that? What did he say?
He
He
doesn't
said
have the
that's what's in
memo,
the
but that
memo
was what was in
report.
the report.
but he couldn't explain it, doesn't know why.
Build more houses and improve the traffic.
Jamie, as a transition over to you. Jamie, as a transition to you, we were just asking for questions on the proposal. We were on the first agenda item.
Thank you.
Do we have any further questions of staff? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
She asked us to raise our hands. so that she-
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, that looks unanimous. And then we have a new planning commissioner. If you would like to take a moment and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I am Antonio Michael. I'm the new planning commissioner, representing District 4. Happy to be here to join the team.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Our next item is rezoning 21-01.
Okay, so Resenting Case 20-01, this is the applicant is Stewart. The property address 2499 Viesta Road, York, tax map numbers 550-114, 550-115, and 550-143. So the request is to rezone a total of 164.22 acres from RD2 to AGC for the development of a park property that's owned by Duke Energy to go alongside the Allison Creek access area. That boat ramp is existing and will continue. The vicinity map, you can see it's right along Allison Creek Road and 274 and right up against Lake Wiley. And here's the aerial, and you can see at the corner the Allison Creek access area. Environmental map. So the zoning in the area, predominantly RD2. You get on the other side of 274 and you have some RUD, some PD and some ID. So the land use plan, the underlying land use is conservation. The town center that's shown here really applies to across 274. It doesn't really apply to this side of 274. This property's been owned by Duke Energy, so we anticipated that some kind of a open space or park would be developed here. Here's the proposed site plan. You'll see there is some trails, some picnic areas, some camping areas, some RV parking areas, and a current picture of the access area that's going to remain. So we're recommending approval of the request. This is consistent with the York Forward Comprehensive Plan, shows the property is conservation. The requested rezoning is consistent with that. The rezoning also supports the York Forward Goal in R-3, which is to protect, promote, and preserve the conservation of natural resources to promote outdoor nature-based recreation and to encourage and promote tourism, emphasizing natural resources in York County. So adding a public park supports that goal. Pretty straightforward. Any questions?
If there are no questions of staff, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve as.
Oh, I have a question, I'm sorry, I thought Jamie was asking a question. Will there forever and only be just one entrance there, Viesta Road?
And go back to the
I mean, you refer to the plan, but this is a rezoning. There hadn't been any plans submitted for approval, right?
Oh, you're saying there have?
Yeah, I believe there's plans that have been submitted.
Okay,
I think it's
I don't know firsthand.
There's a site plan and I believe a construction plan that's in our system.
That's correct, yes.
I'm sorry,
The
what?
plans have been submitted, and they're showing the one entrance onto Allison Creek Road. We also have the applicant is here. If you have any questions about the actual sign of the park, or questions, she can maybe answer those questions.
I was just thinking about we approved I forgot the name of it, the subdivision across Allison Creek Road.
Lakeside Glen?
Yeah. And that's gonna be a whole lot more traffic, and I didn't know how we're gonna handle the traffic from this.
Now, the TIA did say that the impact of this development is expected to be minimal.
I know that. Will it be gated like the park, the Ebenezer Park?
I don't know. Emily can probably speak to those if you have any questions of the applicant. She's the designer of the park. She might be able to help you out with those questions.
Would
Yes, ma'am.
would the applicant like to step up if you could state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Hi, my name is Emily Blackwell. I'm a landscape architect, project manager with Stewart. My home address is 619 Raphael Place, Charlotte, North Carolina. And do you want office address?
That's fine, thank you.
Extensivity. Regarding the traffic, we did have the TIA done, and predominantly the added things to this site are not going to be as impactful from a traffic standpoint than what's already there, which is the boat ramps, which we're reconfiguring the parking and allowing a little bit more parking there, not much, but that's probably the biggest driver of traffic, and that piece is already in place and active and has been there for years. So I don't actually know how long it's been there, but and I don't know of any traffic issues we have now. There's 34 RV spots and I believe 12 tent camping spots that are being added, as well as trails, picnic, playground. To answer your other question about the gate, there is going to be a gate. It is pretty much a replica of what is installed at Ebenezer Park. So there'll be a gatehouse, there'll be the gate arms on the in and the out.
Is that the main entrance or just the camping area?
It's the main entrance.
The main entrance.
So it's actually right about where the blue 4 is. I'm not sure. Looks like the other part of the graphic here got cut off where it told you what those numbers were for, but that's what that number 4 is for, that second blue dot along the driveway.
Thank you. Do we have any other further questions of the applicant? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, there are no further questions. Do we have,
Yeah, I will
still make the motion?
still make a motion.
Okay, do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that looks unanimous. On to the comprehensive plan 5-year update.
Okay, so tonight we have the transportation element to go through. The purpose of the transportation element is to ensure York County's transportation system will meet the needs of current and future residents. The transportation element must be developed in coordination with land use elements to ensure transportation efficiency for existing and planned development. The influencers for the transportation element, roadways, transit, air quality, bicycle and pedestrian, air, freight, and rail. And these are some of the recent or emerging issues. Policies regarding the location of sidewalks in relation to SCDOT right-of-way and the future maintenance. Policies that reduce the implications of multiple curb cuts along major and minor arterial roadways when subdividing. Policies to require sidewalks and new subdivision frontage roads. Policies to regulate truck traffic in the Galleria area. The Carolina Panthers' new training facility and implementation of the new interchange that will change the traffic patterns in the area around Anderson Road, Mount Gallant, and Manchester Village. The City of Rock Hills implemented new My Ride bus service. The impact of RFAT's SC 160 I-77 interchange project. And it says diverging diamond interchange, but it should be directional interchange configuration. Impact of RFAT's, let me see, one of those should have been Penny's. The impact of Penny's I-77 Gold Hill interchange. And Fort Mill has started requiring mitigation funds to county-managed intersection improvement projects. And the goals for discussion, I'm just gonna do the goals and we can kind of go through that. If you have questions, then we'll kind of, talk about those questions. So the first goal on T1, ensure the county has the policies and ordinance in place to provide a highly connected and efficient transportation system. Do y'all have any questions for that first goal? No? Okay.
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Look at T1.1.6. Mentions a transportation impact fee ordinance.
Correct.
Well, and then it's got on the status complete.
Right.
Is there such an ordinance?
So there was a study that was done to look at a transportation impact fee, and the study was complete.
The study was complete.
A study, correct. But it would be the next step. That would have to be whether or not, county council would want to adopt that impact fee. But the study has been complete, so we're on to the next phase of that.
Would the transportation impact fee be collected, I guess, from new subdivisions, much like we do the construction impact fee? Is that it?
Correct.
So in addition to the
TIA.
Development impact fee, there will also be a transportation impact fee?
Correct.
How does that work? Based on what?
It would be based on the way it was set up is for looking at different, very similar to how you do for for school impact fees. And so it would be based on number of units for residential. It could be based on square footage for commercial. But once again, like Chris was saying, we did the study and it hasn't been implemented yet at all. So that was part of the code, or part of the comprehensive plan, was to study this actual impact fee for transportation. And we studied it, or the county did, and but we have not moved forward on that at all.
And there is no proposed ordinance
No,
yet?
not at all.
May I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
The town of Fort Mill went through and did a similar study several years ago, when they implemented impact fees on a number of issues. They looked at transportation as an impact fee and decided not to do it. They did like 50% on parks and recreation and certain percentages on other things. They did zero on transportation. And the reason is the way the state ordinance is written is that the amount you pay an impact fee depends on the number of vehicular traffic you impose on the area. So what happens is businesses that might have 500 visitors a day coming into their store pay a huge impact fee, whereas residentials aren't that much. But the way it's written, the law written by the state makes it very difficult to implement a transportation impact fee because of the problems it causes getting businesses to move into the area. That's what I was told when Fort Mill did theirs.
I was just looking at it thinking of the burden. Well, already we argue over the developmental impact fee.
Oh, am I missing something? It seems like they're both intended for the same purpose. So like, why would you pay a traffic impact fee and your portion of fixing the intersection? I'm just trying to, why are they different?
I mean, they're similar, but you would still need to study it, so to know the impact. So you'd still need to do a TIA to see what improvements are needed, but it would be, those funds could kind of both could go to the same intersection improvement.
Well, it sounds like the TIA is for the specific intersection closest to the impactful point, be it a business,
Right.
Whereas the traffic impact fee could go
Anywhere.
anywhere.
Exactly.
Right.
So it doesn't have to just stick with that location, it can go elsewhere in the county. So say it went to one of the bridges that's, congested, and it was a new development in Lake Wiley, it's not, it's a couple miles down the road, but it's still being impacted.
Thank you for explanation.
So somebody could be paying a remediation fee, I'll call it, based on a TIA, plus a traffic impact fee, plus a development impact fee.
They could.
Mercy.
But it's a way to help pay for roads. In fact, that is.
Won't be anybody using them.
How would this have an impact on pennies for progress?
What would impact that?
So the pennies is, that's the 1 cent sales tax referendum. In pennies, the way pennies projects are selected, there's a committee that looks at that, and so it would just depend on if it's an intersection or if it's a roadway, whatever is selected in the pennies, the committee, whether or not those improvements are there. So I don't know if it's, pennies probably wouldn't come back and also throw funds at a intersection that impact fees would, if that was adopted, would go to. So pennies kind of is in its own, kind of operates a little different. It just depends on what is needed, and pennies usually looks at what is needed.
I see how Fort Mill has started requiring the mitigation, which has the county and RFATs discussed that, applying that with Rock Hill and TK and
As far
Clover, and possibly,
the mitigation.
Yeah.
Occasionally we have, we'll have intersections or projects that overlap, and that's kind of, Fort Mill is wanting to kind of do this, and we haven't gotten there yet with Rock Hill where we're doing mitigation agreements together. And so really just in Tiga, we haven't done either with Tiga. So it's right now it's just Fort Mill. We'd be willing though if, Rock Hill, chose to pursue that.
But it would come back would it come to council, or would it come to us if if there was a consideration for moving forward with that ordinance? Or moving it to an ordinance, if you will?
Which one?
The traffic fee, the traffic,
Impact.
impact fee.
The impact fees? That would have to come back to county council.
Wouldn't go.
Right.
It would come back to you eventually if council wanted to pursue that policy and that process. So you would definitely have an ordinance to review like you had for the impact fees for schools. Once council, if they choose to go that route.
Oh.
As of now, they haven't had any desire to work on that process, but yeah, it would come back eventually.
I don't understand, mitigation funds that the county has, to pay for county managed intersection improvement. What does that mean? What is Fort Mill requiring the county to, I mean, if the county's managing the improvement of an intersection, what does Fort Mill want the county to do?
So, in certain intersections, we kind of overlap the jurisdictions, and so when we're reviewing the TIAs along with Fort Mill, and so in some of these at some of these intersections where there's impacts, where we normally collect funds as we do normally, Fort Mill would like us to also kind of take some of the funds where it's mainly in their jurisdiction, but they would like to coordinate with us to receive those funds, where we would manage the funds and we would be the ones to make sure those, that intersection or whatever the improvement is completed. They're just not quite set up yet to do that, and so we're doing that now.
The county would be contributing funds to make an improvement in the Fort Mill.
No,
area.
the developer would be contributing and we would collect the funds.
Okay.
Okay, any more in T2?
On T2, where you have, you're working with state and regional, this one's kind of specific, but do you work with, like, North Carolina? I know they're looking at doing the Catawba crossing, which would help the northern part of our county immensely when it comes to traffic.
Right.
Is there any cooperation? Is there anything we can do to encourage them to move forward with that project? What kind of cooperation happens there, or do we just kind of cross our fingers and hope they do something?
You know, I mean, we work with them, and I mean, I think it's still kind of advocating the need for that Catawba crossing. I think it's 2 bridges they're looking to do, and so we coordinate with them, and you know, we're stakeholders, and so our input is valuable to them, and so, but we do coordinate with them in various other projects, and that's one of them.
And I can kind of add to that as well, that with RFATS, the administrator here for RFATS, David Hooper, he is very involved with the North Carolina side, and they involve him a lot. So he's pretty much the county's representation for traffic from South Carolina to North Carolina. So he's very much involved in that, and he keeps us informed at both the RFATS policy and TEAT meetings. So we are very much in tune to that.
Okay. Does it look like they're going to approve that? It's still too early
It's
to
so
tell?
early. It's very,
Still
very
way
early.
too early?
Yeah. Way too early.
Can we jump back just real quick to the T1? There was a question I had about sidewalks, and I'm not sure if that's the best spot or if it'll be.
Is it, was it just T1? Was there a specific?
Well, I was trying to find, apparently I didn't make good notes. It just talked about, like in T117, integration of pedestrian and bicycle facilities that are safe, convenient, and attractive. And I was just wondering, looking around, I mean, I know we've kind of discussed sidewalks and things before, and that whole idea of the complete street or
complete streets.
and that's moving forward, I think, yes, or is already in place in.
We don't really have anywhere currently right now where we have complete streets. actually installed.
We have, yeah, and we have not adopted that policy. I don't know if Rock Hill has, they may have already adopted that. TDK may have done something with that. I think that's probably all that I'm aware of. Clover may have, I think Clover did.
Okay.
So it's up to the jurisdictions to be able to adopt that policy, and then also work with SCDOT, who pretty much makes all the big roads, working with them as well. And I don't believe they've adopted that policy.
Okay, yeah, as I recall, there's something at the state level coming up that there's supposed to be some sort of
Discussion about it. There may be, I haven't
Yeah.
heard lately, but there may very well be.
I was just wondering if there's any way to direct or influence sidewalk placement in terms of just not being right up on the road. I noticed that, you know, even when we do get sometimes lucky enough to get a sidewalk, that it's smack dab, you know, curb sidewalk, and you wouldn't necessarily want your kids walking there anyway, because it's usually right on a busy road. So I don't know, like I said, I'm not really sure what the vehicle is to get that, you know, considered, but I would love to see even just placement of sidewalks considered.
Well, even currently, we're kind of, you know, SCDOT is kind of actually in a way asked us to kind of not really put it in the right of way. So in a way, we're kind of almost in a way having to put it, you know, on the property or whoever the developer is. And so it's kind of pulling it away from the right of way.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm just thinking like Gold Hill Road in Fort Mill, you know, there's this beautiful long sidewalk and kid falls off his bike or trips and they're in the road, you know, it's a little scary sometimes. So I was just wondering if there's a way to kind of write that into, at least for consideration in projects.
And I think like he was saying too, I think we're some kind of by default having to go to that method because SCDOT does not want to have them in the right of way for their maintenance requirements. And so we're having to look at how do we put them then now on private property. So I think because of that, we're being pushed to think about a different way to do sidewalks because of SCDOT.
If you look at the way Carolina Orchards is done back Carolina Orchards,
Excellent
like,
example.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
it's fantastic,
Yes.
safe, and people use it all the time.
Right. The difference is that you know, they welcome that, the developer did, where some developers are thinking, I don't want to have the liability of folks walking on my private property. And so that's the hurdle we have to get past and get through. We have one right now going forward that has it built like that. It's on their private property, and that might be an opportunity to look at that one, how that worked, and you know, implement that elsewhere.
Great.
Okay. I guess we'll go to T3. Promote a balanced multimodal transportation system that provides mobility and accessibility for its users.
One question with that. T3.1.1. Is there a talk or is there a look at expanding? I know it was mentioned here earlier about the MyRide system in Rock Hill. I'm not aware of any other across the county. I assume that's a discussion that's being had.
Could you say it one more time? It was a little bit muffled.
I'm sorry. It was mentioned earlier regarding public transportation that exists with MyRide in Rock Hill. This T3 here, I assume that conversation is being had about extending public transportation throughout the county, or is that already happening in other parts of the county?
That's definitely, it's a challenge that we're, you know, trying to take on, because I mean, MyRide is just in Rock Hill, and whether or not they will ever expand, well, I guess it kind of determines whether or not how well that service is, since it's still kind of early, you know, how well that service and the ridership is for that service. And just in the county, I think CATS comes into the Fort Mill area. So there's a little bit of public transit, but we don't have a full service as Rock Hill does.
Last question, does CATS come, it comes just to the Carowinds area, right? Or
I think it's
down on
Carowinds,
Dave
and I
Lyle,
believe it's in Baxter.
Baxter,
Right.
and Dave Lyle,
And-
like Target, Walmart, somewhere out there?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got a
Yeah,
couple spots
okay.
in Rock Hill.
thank you.
Is there any more in T3, or we can go to T4?
If we can go on.
Okay, T4, promote a fiscally sound, efficient, and safe transportation system.
This question sort of actually does tie back into T3, but it also ties to safe as well. What is the county's point of view, current feel, whatever you want to call it, around cyclists? And cyclists, I mean, given most roads are not, they're not the right width, although I'm all for cycling, what's the county's current point of view on provisioning for that?
Well, I mean, the county does have, there's 5 bicycle routes. And so, I mean, we encourage bicycle and pedestrian. I think there's certain areas where maybe it's not as good a fit because of maybe it's just dangerous. It's just a highly traveled road. And so I think it just is kind of a, we just have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. But I mean, we definitely support bicycle and pedestrian. And you just want to make sure it's in locations that are safe. But we're supportive of that, so.
We have room for improvement.
Yeah.
It's hard, right? It's hard because.
It's hard, yes.
I mean, I used to cycle. I don't anymore. Right. Because
Is it from a safety
I
standpoint?
need, my kids would like for me to stick around.
Right.
But I get why people do, and it's a wonderful hobby and sport, and it's fantastic. I just was wondering if there's a lean in the county to consider as we build roads, expand roads, to make that provision for cyclist space, or maybe we're not there yet.
One of the things with the DOT, we push for them to not put, to have a shoulder that's wide enough for a cyclist, not put the rumble strips where they'd be riding. So we try to, push for them to think about the bicyclist. And so, I mean, we try to do the little things that we can, but I think it's just one of those. We're an automobile-centric environment, and so.
No, I just wanted point of view, so that's helpful. Thank you.
I just want to put in there to answer your question a little bit further. So RFATS has put together it's called Bike Walk or Walk Bike. It's a pedestrian bicycle plan for the entire region. But to my knowledge, it hasn't been adopted by the county. But it puts together a lot of mixed multi-use trails throughout the county's jurisdiction. But getting it to the implementation stage, that's a challenge.
Helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sorry, follow on to the biking question. So if that came down from the state, then you would think, I mean, the SCDOT would have to take your suggestion of, widening those roads, or at least providing some sort of shoulder?
So I think my understanding with SCDOT, they used to have a division that looked at a lot of the bicycling and the pedestrian aspect, and I think at some point they had cuts and they kind of eliminated that program, but I believe it's come back, and so now there's a focus on pedestrian and bicycling activities, and so hopefully that's something we'll see in the future when there's widenings and resurfacing, that they're thinking about the cyclists and providing these wider shoulders for the cyclists.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions or comments on the tracking sheet?
I can't always remember what they're called when I see this short name, but it looks like Planning Commission approved something and it got approved first reading and then it got denied the second reading with council. It was for, the last name Carter on Armstrong Court. Can you remind me what that was?
Sure, that was, the rezoning that was going from, AGC to RUD. And they were subdividing the property to be able to put, 2 houses on there, 2 additional homes on Armstrong Farm Road. And council, quite a few neighbors came out against that rezoning request. And so council voted to deny that rezoning. They were had to get rezoned because they had less than 5 acres, and they wanted to do 1 acre lots, so they had to get the property rezoned to RUD. We recommended approval, and so did you. And then because I believe the public came out against it was why it was denied.
Ellen was already non-conforming as it was, because it's under the 5 acres for AGC as well.
And what was the feedback? Is they were concerned about the look and feel, or what was the?
It's the slippery slope, it's what's gonna come next, you know, once we subdivide these parcels right here, is it gonna happen again further down this road? You know, leave the AGC the way it is. There was some discussion about wanting to put mobile homes, although it didn't seem to be an issue about the mobile homes, it was just the additional number of houses on this road.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much.
Welcome.
You got in on a short meeting.
I see. Yes, sir.
You got an easy one.
I kind of
Yes, sir.
For some reason, the mask prevents me from hearing as well. Did you say it's